in your face.
Ooh, yeah.
Hey, you hip cats, this is Wolfman Jack. Hey, you hip cats, this is Wolfman Jack.
Nobody and also on the mic is the beaver.
It's the Barracuda and the Lion in the morning on Zoo FM.
Soul Radio.
It's cocaine radio. Because come on, half those guys, well, not a half, vast majority of the morning show radio guys in the 80s and 90s were on coke, right?
Well,
you know, everyone at Stevens and Pruitt in Houston, they were on coke. Come on.
Oh yeah. I was about to say, man, that
you got to get up at 4 in the morning to prep and then be on the air at 6 a.m. Shit, yeah, right. Most of those guys are morbidly obese.
Yeah.
Or we're out all night. You know, boozing it up. Come on, you know.
Yep, that good old KLOL crowd.
KLOL, man, I messed up my voice. Drink a little water. Here we go. 45 seconds. Threw my back and my voice out pre-show. That wasn't very smart of me. Now, was it?
And what did you do to contribute to that, sir?
I just talk like this. That's really it. All right, let's do this.
Man, you better get some green tea or something, man.
I think I need something like, some more milk or, something. Some Peruvian hot toddy or something.
About so hot toddy.
A hot toddy. Have 2 of those, I'll be dead ass asleep. All right, let's do this, Rod. Let's do this. Let's go.
Yep, let's go. Lock and load.
It's time for another episode of Cap Casualties Podcast. Now here are 2 guys that were traded away from Houston long before it became fashionable. It's Patrick Lopez.
Here's the deal, I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
And Rod English.
I've got the style and profile like never before. Woo!
Greetings and salutations. It is episode 7 of the Cap Casualties Podcast. I'm Patrick Lopez. With me, as always, is mi compadre of nearly 3 decades, the notorious R.O.D. Rod, what's going on, man? How are you?
Man, I'm good, dude. I'll have to say, there are a couple of times a year to where I will say, hey, look, it is my favorite time of the year. So, of course, holidays, Thanksgiving, that's a given.
Okay.
Love Thanksgiving. That's number 1. Number 2, it's March Madness.
Okay.
Which, we talked about that on the previous episode where, we enjoyed that. And then the 3rd is the NFL draft, my friend.
Oh, it's that time of the year, guys. Everybody gear up. It's time for the NFL draft. On ESPN. I don't like the way that guy does that, by the way. On ESPN. It sounds like you're saying peeing on something. Like, what are you peeing on?
I know. To be honest with you, the main guy that does the voiceovers for NFL, especially NFL radio, I can't stand him either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as morning zoo radio from the old days, Let's go with Zoo Time Radio.
You're listening to Barracuda and the Bear.
You're listening to the Cheetah and the Walrus in the morning. No, never. When you're a kid, like, look, man, I'm gonna be real. Like, some guys, just listening to them do play-by-play and commentary got me into the business. That's what I really liked, Like, I will say one of my favorites as a kid was Tom Franklin. He used to do the radio for the Oilers, and I got to work with the man. Great guy, really great.
Oh, really?
Guy.
Cool.
Yeah, great guy. I got to work with him in the past, and really loved working with him, picking his brain, talking old school sports, just all that stuff. But but there was the vast majority of these guys are just total jerk offs. Just like, they're bad people. They're not good people. Most of them are. And they're just like, a human, just a void of like cocaine and like crank and like caffeine. It's just like to get up at 4 a.m., prep, do a show at 6 a.m., 5 days a week. Those guys have to be like, I don't know, man. They're probably on the Keith Richards diet, man. That has to be the case. Like, I'm on that Keith Richards regimen, do heroin on Fridays to tone it down, do a little speed on Sunday nights to get myself geared up. Monday morning, do like 5 lines, and it's like, let's go, let's talk in the morning. Yeah, it didn't help that I got to meet some of these guys. Like, I got to meet some of these guys when I got in the business in the early aughts, man, and you think I'm joking? You think I'm being overly just making this shit up? It's real, dude. Like, these guys are just seriously, man. I remember, like, one of them was I worked in I worked in other markets, and in my short tenure in the Houston market, I got to work with 2 really big morning show guys, and they replaced a legacy on a rock station. And so if you're a Houston person, you should know who these guys are. But anyway, they were some interesting cats. They weren't like the nicest, but they weren't total a-holes. But what was funny, man, is that like a few times a week, they would have, their show, because it was so well known. They had Berry Hill, which is a local like Tex-Mex place in Houston. Yeah, bring food, and I used to dig that because working shows. I worked middays when I worked in the Houston market, but when you work in radio, that means if you work an 8-hour shift, you're really working like a 12 to 15-hour shift, because especially with talk radio and sports, because you're doing a lot of prep. If you're behind the scenes a lot, and so I know I'm pulling the curtain back here, guys, but it cracked me up because they would a couple times a week, Berry Hill would come in, bring food, and I dug that. When you're making your way in and you're broke and you're trying to, you're scraping together money, having free food around you in radio is a cool perk, So they bring in those, fajitas and all that stuff. But the other thing is that once a week at like 6 o'clock in the morning, they had someone come in and make like mojitos, and I'm like, dude, seriously, at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the freaking morning, we're having mojitos, like on a Tuesday morning, like what? These guys got problems, man. I'm not gonna lie. Man,
Pat. Hey, man, but man, my stomach hurts over here, man. You had me in tears, man.
All right, guys.
Really crank.
I'm just they pull out everything, man. Like, seriously, I think one of them actually smoked crack between breaks. Like, you go into the men's bathroom and smoke a rock or half a rock or something to keep going, man. These guys got to give me. It's a lot of energy, like what I'm doing right now. Just blah, 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 like just doing that whole zoo. Man, that takes a lot out of you. Not gonna lie, man. Like I'm just like I'm gonna sleep good tonight after that 30-second little zoo time rant. So I can only imagine the type of shit they have to, imbibe and inject and put up their nose and up their butts, whatever they got to do, man. Whatever they got to do. All right, man, but enough talking about the radio of the past. Let's talk about what we're here for, Rod. It's the NFL draft. This is one of the bigger times of the year. Whenever the NFL season would open up, you would always hear about Cap Casualties. Hey, that's where we got our namesake from. That's when we were looking for names. We would always talk about. You and I would talk a lot about the management of sports, the behind the scenes stuff, the business operation stuff of sports, and one of the big things you and I always talked about before you even started the show for years was the NFL draft. We would always trade information back and forth. So it's a big deal for us. It's interesting because you always have the over dramatization of the NFL draft. The misdirects that get thrown out there the next couple of days is always cool to see, because some of it actually makes sense, but some of it is just completely illogical. But but the other thing that cracks me up too is that you have guys that, like, for the last 10 months were listed in the top 5, and then all of a sudden they magically drop down 10 to 15 spots, and you're just like, what the hell's going on here? And then when the NFL draft happens, they're taken a lot higher than the drop, because it's talking about devaluing them, or possibly, putting out that information to help lower their value so that another team will want to trade out of a certain spot and not require as much for that trade, to do that. But whatever, it's a business, man. It's strategy. It's like a game of poker to do shit like that. That's fine. No complaints from me. But I think, what interests me most about this is that we see just some of these teams out there are gonna draft a future star. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to draft just total busts. That's just how this thing goes.
It's just how it goes, right?
Yeah, but it's always fun to talk about it because, the last few episodes we've talked about Deshaun Watson and his struggles, his personal struggles, off the field. But if you remember, Rod, going into the NFL draft, he was a guy that, a 2-time national championship game guy, won it the last year, beat Alabama back-to-back, 3 for 400 yards, back-to-back final games. You know, like he showed, and then he wasn't getting as much love as Mitch Trubisky. You know, he wasn't getting as much love as Pat Mahomes and there was stuff out there that he wasn't big enough, he wasn't tall enough, he didn't have big enough hands, he didn't throw deep strong enough, but he goes out on the field in the NFL and he balled out, you know, and it shows you that as much as they try to make this as a science, there's a lot of fucking guessing in this, man. And you know what? That makes me feel good because when we guess, we're pretty much as spot on as those guys that are paid a lot of money to do this shit. So, hey, someone out there, if you want to pay us to talk about the NFL draft, I'm all for that. I am all for that.
Come on, man. Hey, I mean, look, eventually we want to get to the bag too, man. So, you know, come on.
But anyway, so let's dive into this, Rod. Where do you want to start? I'm gonna turn it over to you. Where do you want to start, my friend?
All right, man. Well, definitely want to talk about some of the obvious stuff, you know. So I figured, you know, we'll talk about maybe the first, 10 picks of the draft because, you know, out of those first 10 picks, there's some interesting storylines that's going to come out of this stuff, right? And so, you know, when I was doing a little bit of show prep, I mean, I went out and looked at a whole bunch of mock drafts, and just about every single mock draft, you know, as of today, were really starting to line themselves up together to where they're basically all in the sense saying the exact same thing, right? And so we all know that, you know, for the most part, Jacksonville is going to take Trevor Lawrence at number 1. I mean, there's really no how. Yeah, that's a given. There's no, there's no further analysis that needs to be done. You know, there's no further, explaining or breaking down of tape that we need to do, to see that Trevor Lawrence, when he hung it up at Clemson, we knew beyond a shadow of doubt he's going number 1, period. So pretty much end the discussion on that, right?
Is he probably, since Andrew Luck, the clearest surefire number 1 pick?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the last, nearly decade because I think it's been 10 years almost, pretty close to when Andrew Luck was drafted. I'd have to go look.
Roughly.
Okay, but I mean, like, he's been the number 1 pick for the 2021 draft the last 2 years. Like that was it. Like we, since the beginning of last season, not the end of last season, since the beginning of last season. Everyone said when he comes out, he is the number 1 overall pick. That's it, and he has not changed at all in that position.
And the cool thing about living in Florida is that you get a chance to get exposed to some of the high school talent that's here on the East Coast. And I remember following this kid, him and Justin Fields, going back to their junior years of high school when I first started hearing about these cats. And I'm telling you. Seeing some of his high school tape, when you look at, stuff that's on Huddle and stuff that's on Max Preps, as far as what these 2 cats did in high school, you see why they had such successful college careers and they're fixing to make, millions of dollars, in the NFL and possibly be day 1 starters. Right.
Yeah.
And so, But Trevor Lawrence, he's probably be the first pick since Andrew Luck to where it was just a surefire pick, and there's really no discussion that needs to be done around that. So, all right, so move on to pick 2. Mm-hmm. You move on to pick 2 now. Earlier on in the process, everybody was saying that Justin Fields is going to get picked. He's going to be the second quarterback taken off the board. I mean, just hands down, he's the second cat that's going to be taken off the board.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, college football season starts, and this kid out of BYU, Zach Wilson, just all of a sudden just starts to light people up. I mean, he's having excellent games. He's, putting together some great tape. And then all of a sudden, his pro day, he makes a throw to where it's like, okay, I think this particular throw pretty much solidified him getting picked up by the Jets at number 2.
Okay.
I mean, the throw was, and everybody that's been paying attention, exactly what throw I'm talking about. He's at his pro day. He's dropping back a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's rolling to his left. Now he's a right-hander, okay? He's rolling to his left, and he launches, I want to say, either a 65 or a 70-some-odd yard bomb. Thrown away, right? And this is on the other side of the field, and he hits this receiver in stride. Now, that is one of the toughest throws that any type of quarterback can make. It doesn't matter what level it is.
Okay.
When you're rolling to your left, right, and you're throwing to almost the opposite side of the field, and you're throwing a deep bomb that far, and you're hitting a dude in stride, once again, that secured the number 2 spot for him, if you ask me.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw the video, but
no, I've seen the film of it, and I'm not going to argue with you. It's just, I think a few weeks back when we did, maybe a couple months ago now, when we first briefly talked about the upcoming NFL draft, we had touched upon how Zach Wilson was climbing up the boards, and it led to the discussion of what I'm sure you're going to go to next about how, hey man, it's not just him. Like, it's, for me, it was at the very beginning when the season ended, college football season ended. To me, there were two, and it looked like this because of all the prognosticators, analysts, and so forth. But just from what we know and we've seen, there were two clear-cut top picks, and that was Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. But then we had heard that, hey, maybe that third guy is Zach Wilson, and he'll probably be a mid-round quarterback, which made sense because that's kind of like, the year that Deshaun was at 17, the 17 draft, when Deshaun, Trubisky, and Mahomes were drafted. You remember Trubisky went number 2, Mahomes went number Pat Mahomes
7 or 8. He jumped in the top 10,
and then a few picks later was Deshaun. Yeah. So we thought about, okay, well, Trubisky being the number 2 pick is kind of clownish, but at least they were spread out. It made sense the way that the talent was evaluated. But now we're seeing that it just sounds like kind of what we predicted was this is becoming a very big rush for quarterbacks. The top 10 are half the top 10 are gonna be these quarterbacks, and where you're going next with 3 potentially. If I think you're gonna go there, it's gonna. It shocked me to see that at the end of last week, because there were talks of him potentially moving up, and even even a few weeks ago when we last met, and the San Francisco Miami trade had just went down. We were thinking maybe they're going there, maybe they're going after Devontae Smith, or it was like, okay, what are they going to do there? And since that time, Devontae has fallen, Justin Fields has fallen, and Mac Jones has skyrocketed. So what do you have at 3 to San Francisco? What are you thinking at 3? Are you thinking it's going to be? And I want to go ahead and make this. This will be a little levity here, but just to hear that Mac Jones, the jokes that are coming out on the internet, like they're comparing him to most average quarterbacks, like Mac Leinart, Mac Shaw, because it's like this guy is going to make a lot of money and he's okay, but what's really going on there? Do you think that's what's going to go down with San Francisco? Because you got the hat on, dude. You obviously are supporting the Niners here. What do you think is going to go down?
Okay, so yeah, as most of you know, I have pretty much giving my allegiance back to the 49ers. I've been following the 49ers since '88, since I was a child. And, huge fan of franchise. Those that know me personally, especially those that know, that knew me in high school. When I played football, I wore the number 80 because Rice was my idol. And so anyways, I've always been a huge 49er fan. So, this is coming from a fan's perspective as well, too. They're going to take Mac Jones.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. Me personally, I want them to draft Justin Fields at this slot.
Okay.
But I will get to that here in a second. Here's the reason why they want to pick Mac Jones. Because Mac Jones is a younger version of Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. If you follow Kyle Shanahan and all of the quarterbacks that he's coached in his NFL career, he likes pocket passers.
We're talking about statue pocket passers.
Cement feet pocket passers.
Yeah.
Right. The intriguing thing about Mac Jones and the thing that has, sent him up the boards is his accuracy. You can't get away from that. The dude is mad accurate, and in the NFL to where you have to throw in the tight windows, and you have to make split second decisions, you got to be accurate with the ball. And so that's the reason why I really do believe that Kyle Shanahan is going to pull the trigger. And on top of that, John Lynch has publicly said this, and I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
We're going to leave this first pick to Kyle Shanahan. We're going to defer to Kyle on this. Okay. I mean, I don't know if he necessarily said it in those words, but he's basically saying we're giving Kyle the reins on this first pick. And I'm telling you, Mac Jones is a younger version of Jimmy Garoppolo. Because if you remember when Garoppolo came out, that was his biggest thing, was his accuracy.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you take somebody like Garoppolo to where just 2 years ago, he took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So Kyle has proven that he can win with a quarterback that has cement feet. But as long as he's accurate, that's all that matters. And so it's not like Kyle hadn't done this before. So
I want to play a little devil's advocate here. You said that Garoppolo took them 2 years ago to the Super Bowl, so he knows what he's doing here. But that was okay. Well, let's look at the flip side of that statement. That was just 2 years ago. What the hell happened to Garoppolo? Like, what happened then?
Injuries.
You think he's just completely banged up?
Yeah, he can't stay on the field, and that's the reason why I wouldn't be shocked that within the next month or so that he's no longer a San Francisco 49er somehow.
Well, the rumor is he may not even make it through the end of the draft. By Sunday night, he's going to be cut. And of course, Shanahan today said that, hey, I'm not going to comment on that because we don't even know if any of us are going to be alive on Sunday, which is such a shithead, like Belichick type of dickweed statement for these guys to say. Like, come on, guys, be logical when you make these kind of statements. Just say, I don't want to comment. Just don't make something illogical. I mean, like, is it accurate? I mean, we don't know. Yeah, technically we don't know, but, there's a lot of shit we don't know that could go down, like, in the middle of this podcast. Like, monkeys could start raining from the sky here. We don't know. Like, anything can happen. Okay, anything can happen. I get that. But just be just be logical about that kind of comment, dude. Like, just, if you don't want to answer, just say, you know what? I'm just not going to answer that. I don't want to answer that. I know you guys make your bread and butter off of this type of speculation, but I just don't want to talk about that. I'm going to focus on the draft. We'll figure out who our guy is, and then we're going to go from there. Because anything could happen because we have this set up, and then what if the Jets decide, you know what, we're going to be the Jets and derp, we're not going to select a quarterback. Then all of a sudden Zach Wilson is sitting there at 3. What are the Niners supposed to do? They really should. I mean, like, I know Wilson's a little more of a mobile guy, but he's got the size, and the arm strength. Like, can you pass him up at that point? Like, that would be is it outlandish because is Zach Wilson all but said to be the number 2 pick? I'm going to say yes, but then again, I have to say the X factor is we're dealing with the New York Jets, guys. Come on. Like, they're if you go to YouTube and type in, the Jets, NFL draft history, there are videos making fun of just their outlandish and stupid drafts throughout the years. Maybe they decide to go, we want Kyle Pitts, Maybe they say, we want Kyle Pitts. He's, everybody considers him the second best talent in the draft. Let's go Kyle Pitts, and then we'll get a quarterback, in the second round. They may do something stupid like that. We don't know. But, I mean...
You have to remember that this is the same franchise, and Pat, I'm pretty sure you remember this, to where back in the 1995 draft, if I'm not mistaken, either 94 or 95, they had an opportunity to get Warren Sapp.
Yep.
I mean, Warren Sapp was sitting right there for the taking.
Who
did they take? They took a tight end from, I think he went to Penn State, Kyle Brady.
Was it Kyle Brady? Yep, that was the Kyle Brady pick.
Kyle Brady.
Yeah.
Kyle Brady. Yeah. I'm going to say it one more time for effect. Kyle Brady.
And everybody goes, who? Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't know, man. Like, this is like, it can't get any easier because if Zach Wilson is shooting up on everyone's boards, and it's not just because of the Jets, it's because everyone feels he's an all-worldly talent. Even still, let's just say on their board, because didn't the Jaguars select a defensive tackle like 7 or 8 years ago that was supposed to be like a bottom of the first rounder with the top 10 pick? Remember that?
Yes, sir. I remember that.
And everyone was like, this guy wasn't even listed, like on some boards was going to be a second round pick, and he's a top 10 like pick in the NFL draft. I forget his name now. I just just so many people come through these things year after year. Sometimes as I'm getting older, I forget who it was, but I remember this defensive tackle, and everyone was like, "Holy crap!" Right. Anyway, this is possible. That they may have, maybe they have Justin Fields as their number 2 guy. We don't know. Maybe they feel that having Kyle Pitts is an all-worldly talent that we cannot pass up because of his athleticism, his size, his speed, his hands, everything. We can't pass him up, and they think they think that. Or maybe they think, what, we gave up everyone. I remember they gave up Sam Darnold over to the Panthers. I know, but still, we're talking about the New York Jets. We're talking about Woody Johnson. We can't rule that out. But let's just say something crazy like that happened, and then all of a sudden, is Kyle Shanahan going to stick to his guns and get his statue quarterback in Mac Jones? And then Zach Wilson drops. Like that's a crazy scenario there. But the only way that would happen is if the Jets probably want Kyle Pitts. That's the only way I would see that. Or they quietly figure that Justin Fields is better, and they've kept it low key. I don't know. But Mac Jones at 3.
I would be shocked if they select Justin Fields at number 2.
Okay,
I'll be honest with you. I'll be shocked, and it's like,
okay,
oh, you finally make a pick that makes sense for a change.
Sure. Now, unfortunately, Zach Wilson. If he's picked by the Jets, this doesn't, just because he's a great talent, it doesn't mean he's going to succeed over there, because it's the Jets.
Right.
Just remember that.
Because it's the Jets, man.
But I wish him all the best, and he was one of those guys that I liked. That I said, hey, if the Texans were able to trade off Watson and get a top 10 pick, maybe they or even the late teens or the early teens, they should probably go after Zach Wilson, because that he looks like a guy that they would like. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. It's good, at this point things get at this point in when we hit number 4, things can get a little interesting here with the Falcons.
Yeah, things could get interesting, and most mock drafts have the Falcons picking up Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Now there have been a little bit of chatter saying that Jerry Jones may move up in the draft to get Kyle Pitts. And to be honest with you, I don't blame Jerry for wanting to do that, because, you draft CD Lamb last year, so he's your number 1 receiver. You haven't had a good tight end since Jason Witten, since he retired the first time. And so, and so Kyle Pitts, man, if you do have an opportunity to get him Cowboys franchise, I would pull the trigger. I would pull the trigger.
And it makes sense for the Falcons to want to trade down. It makes sense.
Exactly. Because you still don't know what you're getting in Matt Ryan at this stage in his career. There have been trade rumors getting pumped out there since Sunday that Atlanta may be looking to move Julio Jones. And so, I mean, if you're Atlanta, you're sitting, at 4, and if I'm Atlanta, go ahead and trade down. Okay. Go ahead and trade down. I mean, because, not unless you just want to go ahead and keep on with the quarterback carousel and just go ahead and get, Justin Fields, get the hometown kid, at this pick. But, everybody's saying that's not going to happen. Everybody's saying that is not going to happen. So, most mock drafts got, the Falcons picking up Kyle Pitts, in which if they are going to stick with Matt Ryan, everybody says that a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. And so I can't think of a better person or a better fit for that Falcons offense other than Kyle Pitts. I mean, you already got Ridley, on one side of the ball, so Pitts, will be a good complement in this offense, man. So
for me, I think
so
is the pick number 4 is more than likely going to be. I'm leaning towards conservative approach that this is going to be a Falcons pick, and that Kyle Pitts has to be the guy. If things shake out the way that we see them with the top 3 quarterbacks already with the top picked, I think they go with one more year of Matt Ryan. But then let's bring on aboard a talented tight end, give him a year to play under Matt Ryan, and then maybe either draft a quarterback in the second round or look at your future next offseason, next year. Yeah. Or the other option, which I'm probably saying that's more 70 and the other 30 is probably trading down. But that, like you said, it's probably more than likely it's going to be, for me, either the Cowboys because Jerry wants to make a statement, or it's going to be the Patriots. And this is the interesting one because at 15, to move up to 4, Belichick is going to have to give up a lot, which historically he hasn't done that regularly. I mean, it's been very few that he's moved up in a draft. He usually moves out of the first round because for almost 2 decades they were a lower first round pick, so it made sense for them to trade that away, get move back into the second round and pick up more picks to pick up more depth. That's how he always operated. There's a very different year because last year they struggled.
They sucked.
Yeah. And it's going to be a year of we need to either figure out who our future is going to be at quarterback. It's obviously Cam Newton's not the guy because if they really wanted, they would have signed him to a longer term deal rather than 1 year deal. But I think that he is a stopgap for them for 1 more year. I think that I wouldn't be shocked if it happens, but at the same time, I'm leaning towards if they're going to trade up, it's not going to be at 4. It'll probably be at somewhere maybe with the Dolphins at 6 or maybe at 7 from Detroit. That's what I think is going to happen. Just because if they're eyeing a quarterback, more than likely it's probably Justin Fields over Trey Lance. But then Trey Lance is still out there at this point. What we're talking about. So I'm going to say the 4th pick is going to stay where it's. The Falcons are going to stay there. They're going to pick Kyle Pitts because they need a talented a talented receiver on the field. And like you said, tight ends are crucial to quarterbacks. A good tight end makes their job a lot easier, especially their short to mid games. A good tight end that could help stretch out the field for the deep ball. Like a tight end like that could, if Matt Ryan could get a bit of a resurgence, the 2 years, he and Julio Jones could be like, all right, we got a guy to help stretch things out for Julio that can go deeper and longer. Like, let's do this. That it could be the case. So okay, all right, let's move on to pick number 5, the Cincinnati.
All right, and this 5th pick by the Bengals. I mean, this particular pick has been solid across the majority of the news media, and mostly everybody has got and which I agree with this. They got the Bengals picking Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman out of Oregon. Yes, and yes. Joe Burrow is he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's going to be a difference maker, but you got to keep him upright. So,
he's coming off of that gnarly knee injury, a PCL, ACL, meniscus damage. Basically, it's as bad he completely blew out that knee. And the other day I tweeted about this that scar that in that picture of him sitting down, like kind of throne like pose. That dude straight up has an old school Joe Namath knee surgery scar. That thing looks gnarly.
Yes, sir.
Like I know with ACL injuries they're a little bigger than scope scars, but like that bad boy, they completely opened up that knee. That was like an old school, like I said, it was an old school Joe Namath knee scar. And so for him to be coming back, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hesitance on his part because structurally that knee is going to feel very different, and he's going to get scared. It's going to be in his head. Bringing in a rookie lineman, albeit a mammoth of a lineman, he's a huge
mammoth.
Guy.
Come on,
6'6", 240 pounds. He's a mammoth of a guy. What is he? What is he? A tackle? Was he a tackle at Oregon?
I think he was a tackle at Oregon.
So maybe would he play right, or I mean that's the interesting thing. I don't know the depth chart of the Bengals offhand here, so I don't know who their left tackle is right now. But I mean, obviously at that size, he's not going to be interior. He's going to have to be on the edges, right? I mean, he has to be, right?
Oh yeah. Hands down, man. Hands down. He's he's got to Sewell's a tackle. Yeah, he's a tackle, and if he's getting drafted that high, he's got to be playing left.
Well, this is the formula for the NFL draft. This is normally in the first round, you have a bevy of quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive linemen, which are usually your tackles. That's usually what you see at the top of the draft. You very rarely see guards or centers go. Eric Fisher was a guard that was drafted. Well, long story with that guy. That guy moved all over the place. But anyway, so with the Chiefs, but historically in these drafts, the higher offensive linemen are tackles, just because those are premium spots on the offensive line, and they're very important. They're anchors for the offensive line. But normally you have your quarterbacks, your receivers, your offensive linemen, and then edge rushers. And then the really talented cornerbacks. That's usually what you see at the top of the draft. Normally, like the vast majority of them are that. And so the first lineman taken here, okay, that's the first lineman in the draft. All right, that means we're starting to diversify the talent a little bit here, breaking a little bit from just the skilled positions. But I think that this would be a good pick for Cincinnati, because that shows that they're investing in the future with Joe Burrow. They believe that he can be their guy. There are a lot of questions coming off that knee injury, but at the same time, I get it. You want to say, okay, we want him to be upright. That's a big thing. And it's still dangerous. It's still a dangerous game, because as talented as Sewell can be, rookie linemen struggle a lot, especially edge linemen. They struggle a lot. Now, it's very rare that they come in and completely dominate, because remember, who was it? Larry Allen, that was, his rookie year. Was it Larry Allen that was made a fool by Reggie White?
Man. Oh yeah. Like the one arm toss, man.
Larry Allen is just a mammoth of a guy, and he was a perennial Pro Bowler and one of the a Cowboy Ring of Honor guy, I guess you could say. I don't know, but his rookie year, man, Reggie White just took away that man. He took his manhood away. Like, he just straight up he lifted him off the air with a fucking cast on. Like, with that cast,
tossed him up, man.
Just tossed him away, and it's just one of those things where rookie linemen. It's very psychological. With linemen, there's a lot of psychology with those guys. They're heavy thinkers as well as just big physical beasts. But it's interesting, because if they're going to go with an edge lineman, they're investing in the future with Joe Burrow, which is fine. I'm cool. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, he's going to have his struggles too. So you got to get this guy as ready as possible. But they got to keep Joe Burrow upright. So let's move on to pick number 6. This is the pick that goes to the Miami Dolphins. What are you thinking here, man?
Okay, so earlier on in the process, everybody thought that the Dolphins, regardless if they're going to be at pick number 3 or with this current pick at 6, everybody thought that this is where Devontae Smith gets picked up.
Yep.
And no, that's not the case.
Okay.
Jamar Chase, wide receiver from LSU.
So you're following what's pretty much out there with a lot of the mock drafts then. Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? To be honest with you, I agree with that pick too, because Jamar Chase, if you remember, he opted out last year because of COVID and to focus on the NFL draft, which at the time I was like, okay, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
But it seems like that decision, has made him some serious moolah.
Okay.
Right? Because every single mock draft that I've seen has got they got the Dolphins taking Jamar Chase. And I know why, because when you look at his size and the speed, for his size, you got to remember, this is a former Biletnikoff winner. I mean, you got to remember, this is the same guy that torched Clemson in the national championship game. Him and Justin Jefferson absolutely just ran through that Clemson secondary like a hot knife through butter. right?
Yeah.
And that was with Joe Burrow tossing the rock to him, right? And so Jamar was clearly the best receiver in 2019.
Okay.
I mean, my hands down. You and I saw that firsthand against Texas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, he had his way. Not to say that the Longhorns had one of the best defenses or whatever, but still, we got a chance to see that firsthand. And I remember telling this to folks. I said that LSU squad had the potential of running the table and beating anybody on their schedule. And sure enough, that's what happened, right? So, anyways, I digress from LSU. But Jamar Chase is a safe pick. Is a very safe pick. Okay. If you look at what what Miami is doing, and it's cool to talk about Miami because there's a guy that works at the local Publix, which is a huge supermarket store chain here on the East Coast, yep. and this kid, he's from Miami and he works in the meat department, and so I normally, when I get my seafood, like whatever, fish or whatever, he's normally, there to help me out. And we talk sports all the time. And he's a huge Miami Dolphins fan. And so if I need to ask any questions about the Dolphins, I'm talking to this dude, right? And so he's like, you know what? Brian Flores is doing an absolutely wonderful job with the team that he's building. He's built up that defense to where it is a very, very respectful defense. And so now he's looking to build the offense on Tua. Okay. And so Tua, I mean, he's the bona fide number one starter. Ryan Fitzpatrick is no longer with the team. And so it's Tua's team now completely. Tua doesn't have anybody looking over his shoulder or anything like that. It's his team. So he needs to put players around him. Devontae Parker had a little bit of a rebound season last year. I'm not saying that he was an all-pro, but it was probably the best, season stat-wise that he's had in his career. And you got to remember, Devontae Parker was a former first-round pick too.
Sure.
And so they need some more firepower at receiver. And so yeah, it's a surefire pick, man. I agree with it.
Okay. I'm gonna go a little nuts here and say that this is the pick this is where the New England Patriots are going to trade up to. I'm going to say they're going to move up to 6. Like the Dolphins,
to 6, really?
Yeah, the Dolphins are willing to trade down. We've seen that already once in this draft, and they've stockpiled picks for this year and next year from San Francisco, and I could see them saying, "Let's do this again. Let's move down one more." And I think for them, like especially if the draft plays out like we're thinking it's going to play out, it's potential that at 15 Devontae Smith is there. He could be there, And for them, they may value Jamar Chase as the better receiver on their board, but then they may have Devontae Smith very close. A close second, and to them it seems like, okay, if we had to, we could take both at 6. Okay, well then why not trade down? Chase is more than likely going to be gone, but we know the Patriots want a quarterback. Let's get some picks out of this. Let's get even more picks out of this. Let's get a second rounder tomorrow, and maybe even a first or a second, next year, and a third, or just knowing that they can stockpile picks for the next 2 seasons. I think the Dolphins are going to do that, because I know people are saying that with the Lions spot at 7, I've seen three mock drafts that say that's where the Patriots are going to move up to. I think the Patriots move up to 6 because the Patriots, to me, if there was a team that desperately needs to draft a quarterback this year outside of the Houston Texans, of course, and they don't have an option for that, they have a third, right. They have a third, their next pick is in the 3rd freaking round, so. But right. They desperately need a quarterback, even though they have a franchise guy, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But whatever. I think the next team that I think of that says, okay, they have to move up to get a quarterback, it's the Patriots. To me, the Patriots. That's a franchise where Belichick, I don't think he wants to go with the complete tear down rebuild. I think he wants to tool up fast to get back where they need to get to, and I think having a quarterback is important to them. So I could see it at 6 more than 7. And the reason why is because I could see the Dolphins being willing partners to trade. That's what I think. So I'm going to say at 6, it's going to be a trade up by the Patriots. The Dolphins trade down to 15, and I'm going to say with the 6th pick, the Patriots are going to draft Justin Fields, not Trey Lance, Justin Fields. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay. All right then. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
cool.
let's move to 7 here. 7 is the Detroit Lions. What are you thinking here happens?
I think that this is where not the New England Patriots moving up to this spot. I think it's the Denver Broncos that move up to the spot.
Okay.
I think the Denver Broncos move up to the spot and get Justin Fields at this spot here.
Okay, I like this. All right, we're making things a little interesting here. All right, what makes you think that the Dolphins? I mean, what makes you think that the Broncos are willing to move up 3 spots or 2 spots?
I don't think that they're sold on Drew. I don't think they're sold on Locke.
Okay.
I really don't think that they're sold on Locke at all. I mean, is he okay? And so, based on some of the rumors that I've heard, that I'm hearing that the Broncos are willing to give up a 3rd round pick this year and a 2nd round next year, just so he can move up to 7. And knowing Detroit, all they do is go from 7 to 9. If they go from 7 to 9, that still put them in a real good position to get either, a quarterback if they really not sold on Goff, which makes no sense to me at all.
Okay.
In which I'm going to get to that here in a second.
Okay.
Because there's another trade that's going to happen if you ask me. But anyways, like I say, not going to spoil it. But yeah, the general manager wants his guy. And general manager of the Broncos, he loves Justin Fields. He loves him some Justin Fields. So
okay.
I think that Denver comes up to 7 and, swaps with Detroit, gives up that 2nd round, gives up that the 3rd rounder this year, 2nd rounder next year, to get Justin Fields.
Okay. All right. Well, that does make sense. It's actually that's a good point, because if that does happen, the Broncos don't have to give up a lot. You're saying a 3rd this year and a 2nd next year, maybe even another 3rd to do it. I don't know, but they're not giving up a 1st rounder next year or a 2nd rounder this year or next year. It makes sense because it's 2 spots, and at the same time, if they want to go quarterback, then if it's Justin Fields and Trey Lance is still out there, so it doesn't sound like that. Like if let's just say at 8, the Panthers stay at 8, then they're going to want a quarterback more than likely, because just in case Sam Darnold doesn't work. Like for us to really think that Sam Darnold is going to be the long-term solution for the Panthers, that's just silly. That's silly, But you're making it a little interesting. Okay, all right, I like that. Okay, so you're saying at 7, the Broncos move up to 7 and they pick up Justin Fields. I'm saying it's going to be the Patriots, which makes things very interesting now. So, yeah, I like this. May have to sidebar this after we record. We hit end on the recording and make a little bet on that one. I like this. All right, I'll take a little action on that one there, my friend. Pick number 8. Let's move to pick 8. The Carolina Panthers. Look, they traded for Sam Darnold, so they technically have a quarterback. There have been rumors that Christian McCaffrey could be on the block, and they're the idiots that signed him to that huge ass deal when they already knew that he was a smaller, leaner running back, and there was risk for him for injury. I mean, I liked the guy. Don't get me wrong. If you remember, I was a Christian McCaffrey at Stanford fan. I was a big Christian McCaffrey fan. I loved him.
Same here.
But I always thought that if he was going to be a run him between the tackles, ground him, pound him in the NFL, he wasn't going to last very long because he was a little leaner than your average running back. That's just the nature of the beast in the NFL. NFL running backs stay their lifespan. Their lifespan in the league is an average of 4.5 years. I mean, it's brutal. But they gave him that big old contract. I speak from experience on this because I remember being a huge Arian Foster fan. They signed him to that mega deal. He got $30 million, and then the next season is when the injuries started piling up because he had 250 carries the previous season. It's like when they hit that 250 mark, it's like boop, 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 boop. It's only a matter of time. Sean Alexander was another guy, signed a mega deal, had 200 some odd carries the previous year, and then that was it. It was hard for him to come back. Got injury prone after that. And so. That could be an option for them to be willing to trade him off, but it's not. They're not going to wield the collection of picks that they think they can for McCaffrey. Because other teams will be willing to take him and maybe even take on his contract, but they're not going to be willing to give up a lot for him. So there's a lot to think about here with the Carolina Panthers. What do you think they're going to do with the number 8 pick?
The fact that they are. Possibly putting McCaffrey on the block.
Okay.
I don't know, man. For some odd reason, my gut tells me they stay at 8.
Okay.
My gut tells me that they stay at 8. And I think that they'll probably wind up going defense. I think they wind up going defense because I think let's see, who's the receiver that they wound up getting? Last name is Samuel. It's not Deebo Samuel because he's with the 49ers, but it's the other receiver with the last name Samuel, and he had a decent year. I guess they're thinking that Arnold may be somewhat of an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater,
sure.
Which really ain't getting much there, but still. I think that they're, I think that they may be ready to roll at 8.
Okay.
Even though, to me, Carolina is the wild card here.
Okay.
If you ask me, Carolina is the wild card because you really don't know what they're going to do. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that they stay at 8. And they pick up the best corner in the draft, Patrick Surtain out of Alabama.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Patrick Surtain second.
Yes. And,
okay.
And those of you that are football historians, this is the son of Patrick Surtain that was an all-pro corner down with the Dolphins. And so the pedigree is there. Of course, he went to Alabama. I'm not going to sit here and say Alabama's DBU, but they're close to it. They've put some, a numerous amount of first-round picks, here in the 2000s and the 2010s. So, they got some pedigree there. So,
okay.
I think they go Patrick Surtain at that pick.
I was debating on this one as well. I looked at the top, at this point, if we're moving along, and maybe they go Micah Parsons at linebacker, but I don't really think they really need to. Maybe they go wide receiver, but at this point, who would it be? Would it be Waddle? Because at this point, this is where we can open up the discussion a bit. We're seeing on a lot of drafts and a lot of boards that Jalen Waddle is projected to go before Devontae Smith now.
Yep.
And that's where we can have this discussion because apparently the biggest thing with Devontae Smith is the fact that it's not a big thing. It's the fact that it's a little thing, that the guy only weighs 165 pounds. To put it in perspective, he's 6'1", 165. One of the smaller receivers that came in the past, Deshaun Jackson, was 5'9.5", 5'10", remember? And he was 167 or 68. So technically he weighs more, and he would look like just watching him run, the jersey looked like it was like a little kid wearing like a jersey that was 3 sizes too big, So obviously Smith is a lean guy. Now, can he put on some muscle and put on some mass before the season starts? Yeah, he could easily put on 10 pounds of muscle, like if he goes into the whatever programs they recommend, or once he signs, he signed with an agent, but once he signs his rookie deal, he could immediately go cut a check to a personal trainer and nutritionist to help get him bulked up a bit, ready for training camp. But But I mean, you would think Alabama's a professional factory. Like these guys should be beefing up over there. And if he's not beefing up over there, then maybe there's something to look at with how he trains. I don't know, but man, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's not necessarily his weight. Maybe it's now that I'm talking myself through this. Maybe it's the fact that he's underweight for a wide receiver. He was a little slower at 4.5 when he ran his pro day 40, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Was it 4.5? I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. But then the other thing is it's Alabama, and Alabama is a professional factory. Like they treat their guys like pros, and if he's still through with their weight training staff, their strength and conditioning team, with their nutritionists, if he's not gaining enough weight to be a little bulkier on the field, then obviously the question may be, is it him? Is he just not putting in the work? Is he not putting in the dedication to his diet and training? Like that may be where people are starting to question Devontae, and that's probably why he's fallen a bit. It's because of that whole world of speculation outside of just the fact that he weighs 165 pounds. They may be asking questions like why, because if it was Devontae Smith at Texas, they'd be like, okay, he just probably, that's how they were cool with him over there. Or if it was at U of H or Notre Dame or BYU, that would have been fine. But it's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. Like, do you really think this guy is going to not have him go work in the weight room, put in the time in the weight room, put in the time, with the nutritionist to make sure he gets his body into proper football shape? It's like, then that's probably where people are like, it's probably what's going on with Devontae. It's probably a lack of like dedication or, commitment, But I think it's possible here at this spot that we see them go after a receiver. It's possible.
I mean, I can definitely see it too. I mean, it's not like, Carolina's got a whole bunch of weapons at receiver.
Yeah. So we both said it at 7. We both said at 7 it's going to be Justin Fields, whether it be the Patriots or whether it be the Broncos. Okay. So that leaves the other quarterback out there, Trey Lance. So I'm sorry. Yeah, Trey Lance. So if they want to go quarterback of the future in Carolina, it's going to have to be Trey Lance, right?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll definitely have to be Trey at this pick. It'll definitely have to be Trey at this pick.
Okay. But you say Patrick Surtain. I think that sounds like the reasonable conservative approach would be to get the best cornerback on the board would be Surtain. I don't think that's. Yep. I think that's more. I'm leaning kind of like that's probably what's going to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if they actually do something here, do something a little different outside the box with the Panthers. Yep. Move over to number 9. This one gets a little interesting at number 9 because now for you, it is the Detroit Lions, right?
Yep.
Because of the trade. Yep. Is this the big thing you want to talk about now? Is this the big? All right.
Yes, sir.
Let's do this.
This is where I believe New England will move up.
Okay.
To take this pick.
Okay. So the Detroit Lions trade down and then trade down again with the Patriots. Is what you're saying?
Now remember, they're acquiring some picks now.
Okay. No, I know, I get that, but what you're saying is that they're moving down. Detroit is moving down to stockpile picks. Okay, all right. Okay.
Yep.
Go on. Number 9.
And I think at this pick where New England comes up to 9 and gets Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Okay.
Yeah, they get Trey Lance at this pick.
Okay. Now what I said was at number 7 number 6 is where the Patriots trade up and they take Justin Fields. That means that the Dolphins move down to 15. So for me, by default, the number 9 pick is still the Broncos.
That's right.
I'm going to say the Broncos do something a little shocking here, and they go after not Trey Lance, but I'm going to say they're going to take Jalen Waddle. This is where this is what's going to happen. They're going to go another wide receiver. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So I know. You got Judy. So you got Judy on one side, Waddle on the other.
Yep. I think at this point, Locke is. I think they're going to give Locke one more year.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, I think one more year.
Okay.
I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm not like I don't dislike the guy. I just don't think he is legit as an NFL quarterback. I don't think so.
Oh well.
I could see them saying, let's do one more year, but let's get another wide receiver because worst case scenario, if they feel that Waddle or even Devontae Smith are really good, high quality receiver talents, and they're still kind of skeptical about Trey Lance, which is who would be left at this point, I think that they think, okay, let's go Waddle. Because I would say Smith 2 months ago, but based off of the fact that everybody's dropping him, which I don't understand why, but okay, that kind of leads me to speculate that there's probably some talk within the NFL with executives that he's kind of falling on a lot of boards. So I think Waddle is probably the more conservative of the two to take. A little faster, about the same size, if not a little bigger in terms of like weight. He's a little bit bigger of a receiver. So I think that they have a 1-2 receiver combo in Denver with the number 9 pick.
Man, and let's not forget that Noah Fant is their tight end, who's a really good serviceable tight end too, man. So I mean, that's a nice 1-2-3 punch. And then who do they have at tailback? Because I know that Philip Lindsay's no longer with them. Philip Lindsay's with the Texans now. Yeah. So
is it Freeman? Freeman? Is it a Freeman?
Freeman. Yeah. I think it's Royce Freeman. So that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do something a little different, and I think I don't think they're ready to completely give up on Locke. I think they want to give him one more year. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, it looked like there were stretches last year where he can actually be a bona fide, be a quality quarterback, not a bona fide quarterback, a quality quarterback. But then he also struggled a lot as well. So I think they want to see in year 3 a level of consistency, and if they don't, then they can say, okay, we're going to move on next year. But for us, let's go ahead and bring on another wide receiver talent. Yeah.
Fair. No, fair enough, man.
Also, don't forget, I totally forgot they have Melvin Gordon as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But that makes it a really good offense, and if a really quality offense with skill players, and if Locke cannot do it, then with the talent if they draft Waddle, then at this point they say, okay, well, if Locke can't get it together, this is something it's completely on Locke. It's not on the talent around him. So, okay, all right. So that's what I'm doing with number 9. Broncos stay. They take Waddle. All right, let's round this bad boy up, and like we were going to talk the top 10 picks, and then we'll just sprinkle in a few little comments about the rest of the first round and the rest of the draft here. Top 10 pick for you now. This becomes for you because the Cowboys moved up to. Where'd you have them at, 5 or 6?
No. I said there were rumors that
you were just postulating. Okay, it was just a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but
at this point for both of us, then to confirm, we both have the Cowboys here to round out the top 10. What do you have going on with the top 10 with the Cowboys?
They need help at corner in the worst way,
and
so I think that they take the next best corner off the board, and that's J.C. Horn. Out of South Carolina.
Gamecocks, yes.
Yeah, I think they go that route because I mean, if Surtain was there, then they're going Surtain hands down. But since I already got Surtain off the board, then you go with the next best corner, which is J.C. Horn.
Okay. Let me pull up my pick real quick. I think they're going to do something a little different here. It's not going to be shocking, but. I think they're going to go with Micah Parsons at linebacker, man, from Penn State. That's what I think.
That makes sense. I could see them doing that too, man. That makes perfect sense.
Jerry's an interesting cat because if Jerry doesn't do something completely outlandish, he usually takes a very conservative approach. It's either like, oh my God, Jerry just went balls deep on this thing. He went bananas, right? Or he's going to go offensive line or defensive. Like he will do something that's like, or a linebacker that makes sense. Like, okay, that's a good player right there, a good skilled quality player that's going to be an anchor on your offensive line or on your defensive side of the ball. It's either like make a big splash, like do something wild. But I think they go Micah Parsons. I think they go with linebacker because, a good skilled guy that can chase around and make a lot of tackles. I think that's really what they want. They want one of those kind of. They basically want that and they need that. I don't know is Jalen Smith still on. I'd have to go look again. I totally forgot. I think I saw something.
Yeah. He's still with the team. Okay. Yep, he's still with them.
So I think Micah Parsons. That way they can really retool the defense. I think that's the next step for them. Cornerback makes a lot of sense just because it seems like every couple of years the Cowboys are needing an anchor in the secondary. It just feels like every 3 or 4 years we're back talking about their secondary again, right? So J.C. Horn, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that would be a good pick as well. But I think that they do something a little different and they go linebacker. I think so.
Okay, I mean it makes sense.
All right, man. So outside of the top 10, man, anything? I mean, I don't think we really need to go down the line here because it just gets a little convoluted with the players. There's a lot of offensive linemen that a lot of people will yawn about. But at this point, what stands out for me is, and actually for both of us, Trey Lance is still on the board. So no longer, based off of what we broke down today, our changes and our estimations here with the transactions, Trey Lance is no longer a top 10 pick. So we go with 4 quarterbacks in the first.
Well, but actually, I had. If you remember, I had New England coming up to 9 to get him.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I totally forgot. That's because we both picked Justin Fields at 7. That's right. You're
yes,
right. We both did, but I didn't pick Trey Lance. So Trey Lance falls out of the top 10 for me, guys. For those listening, Trey Lance isn't a top 10 quarterback at this point in my estimation, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the Dolphins moving down, and it makes things interesting, but. And with the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold, I don't think they're going to be as aggressive for a quarterback, and I just don't think that Trey Lance would be their guy. That's just my opinion. But okay, anything stand out for you at this point? Devontae Smith is still on the board, obviously. What are you thinking here? That anything stand out with the rest of the first round?
Yeah, this is probably the first year in a long time to where we didn't see the Cleveland Browns in the top 10.
That's a very weird feeling, right? It's just odd. It's like, okay, so what are the Browns taking with the first overall pick? Yeah, the Browns don't have a first overall pick this year, guy. Okay, are they number 2? Nope. Number 3? Nope. Do they have a top 5 pick? No. Okay, well, what are the Browns gonna do? Like we're concerned we want to do a welfare check on the Browns. Like they don't have a top 5 pick this year, guys. This is very odd for them. You're right. This is a weird year for the Browns. It's weird to see It's weird to not see the Browns up there.
Right. So that's the kicker for me, man. Is that okay? Do you know what you're gonna do? Picking later on in the first round, and I think that they'll get a solid pick around there.
I've seen 3 mocks, and I like this with their pick in the late first round taking Asante Samuel Jr.
Sir.
Like I've seen 3 different picks, and I'm like, I like that. I don't know why.
I like that pick too, man.
I think it's just like maybe it's because I was a fan of Asante Samuel, in the past, senior. But maybe I'm giving Junior a little more credit than I should. But for some reason, to me, that stands out. Like that would be a really fun pick, and it's good for the Browns to be able to make that pick later in the first. Like, yeah, we don't have to worry about how are we gonna screw up this top 10 pick this year. It's like because we don't have a top 10 pick, guys. We're gonna do something interesting. So going after Asante Samuel Jr., I'm like, yeah, I saw that on a few of these drafts, and I'm like, I like that.
I can dig it too. I can dig it too. And once again, living in Florida, I got a chance to see a lot of FSU ball this past year. And Asante Samuel Jr. is nothing but a split image of his old man. And if my memory serves me right, and it's starting to get a little twisty. If my memory serves me right, Asante Samuel was one heck of a zone corner.
Yes, he was.
He was one heck of a zone corner. And I'm telling you, his son is a split image of his old man. A great zone corner, man. There hasn't been a play that to where if he's been around the ball, it's because, once again, he's playing zone and he's playing his primary receiver in the zone. But next thing you know, he's breaking off to spot the ball and go pick it off because once again he has that much range.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, if they wanted to, they can convert him to free safety if they wanted to, and he would absolutely thrive because he has that type of range, man. He's just a ball hawk, dude. And so, yeah, he would be an excellent fit for that defense, man.
Okay. Other one that stands out to me is probably the other Bama guy, Najee Harris, the running back.
Yeah.
A few folks have said he's a Steeler. Size.
Yes.
The size, the way he runs. This guy is a Steeler. So, of course, everybody's putting him to the Steelers. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets don't screw up the number 2 pick and go with Zach Wilson at running quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets also take Najee Harris as running back. Like, why not? Why not? Like, let's just go ahead and let's start retooling the offense in skill positions. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but everyone's predicting he's gonna land right in the lap of the Steelers because of how his size. But the big question for me at this point for you, Rod, is where is Devontae Smith going to fall to then in your prediction? Like, where do you feel he is going to land?
He's going. I don't think he goes past 15. Whoever is at 15 is going to snap him up.
Well, at this point, you stated that with the trade downs, I think you said
it'll probably wind up being Detroit. Yeah. It'll be Detroit. Yeah, Detroit. It'll be Detroit. So I could see them getting a Devontae Smith just to get Goff some help. Okay. And so do you put him at X? Heck no, he's too small to play X. And so so yeah, you definitely in the slot. Put him at of course he's not a true H because he's not blocking the crap out of anybody, but still you put him in the slot and you let him do work. He's really in a sense. I'm not going to say he's the absolute second coming of Wes Welker, but I am going to say he's the absolute second coming of Wes Welker. I see him having a Wes Welker type of career, okay. And so, because even going back to Devontae Smith, you put pounds on him, then he's liable to lose some of that speed.
Okay.
He's liable to lose some of that speed. And
which he doesn't have a lot of. Doesn't have a lot of speed.
Yeah. But at the same time, Jerry Rice ran a 4.6.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? Jerry Rice 4.6. So I've always said from as long as I've been playing, as long as I've followed the game and played a little bit, there's a difference between track speed and football game speed.
But I want to bring this up because it just popped in my head. Who is the Ole Miss receiver? Was it Treadwell? What do you remember who I'm talking about?
Laquan Treadwell.
That was the cat that everyone said was going to be the next Jerry Rice. Because he had a really bad 40 time, that he was going to be the next Jerry Rice because he was a skilled player, a great talent. And I think maybe people were just trying to find the next Jerry Rice. I don't know, but I remember I watched him in games. I'm like, okay, he's a good receiver. He's not bad, but. He doesn't blow you away on the field in college, so that should tell you there.
Yeah.
And so when he ran a low 40, I'm like, okay, well, that's no shocker because they said he wasn't speedy to begin with, but then it was like, man, he's slower than we thought. But then he just, did nothing in the NFL.
Yeah, he did nothing in the NFL, right?
So, I get what you're saying. Like, he could be the next Wes Welker, and you can't rule out based off of speed because of Jerry Rice, because of guys that were a little slower. Wayne Corbett. Remember Wayne Corbett? That was
right. Come on, man.
Slow-ass slot guy that just, made a career of just finding the ball with Pennington and whoever, Testaverde, whoever, just finding the ball. Devontae Smith, okay. For me, I think it's a little different. I think he goes at 14 to the Chicago Bears. I think the Bears are going to trade. They're gonna trade up to 14. Or wait, is it trading up? Yeah, they trade up. Yeah, I'm trying to think of where. Basically, the Bears are going to trade up a little bit to get to Devontae Smith. The reason why is because Allen Robinson's contract, I believe, ends at the end of this season. And I think it makes sense for them. Let's have whether they re-sign him, they franchise him, whatever they or extend him, whatever they decide to do. It's good to go ahead and have Plan B in place for the future, and to go after Devontae Smith, like you said, because they have both Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, who aren't exactly guys that just fling it across the field, all over the field. They do better with dink and dunk, and it makes sense to have, like you just said, if he's the next Wes Welker because of his skill. Wes Welker was one of the best skilled slot guys. You know, the guy just he got open in the the short and mid size of the side of the field, like that middle area. He was always open, and that's if he's that kind of guy. Which for me, it's always fun to watch that with those receivers that get those 15 to 20-yard passes, 30-yard passes consistently. They find a way to get open, but then they're not always burning you in the post, for a 70-yard bomb all the time. I'm okay with that. I like to see that kind of offense kind of deconstruct the defense on the field. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. So I think the Bears are gonna trade to move into that spot, maybe even earlier, maybe even go up to 12 or 13, depending on how things shake up. After the top 10. And I think they go after Devontae Smith. I think the Bears are going to target Devontae Smith. That's my thought.
Okay. Now, the team that to me is the most intriguing, to where it's like, okay, you really don't know what they're going to do, is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, because they keep tossing around that they may be in the market to get a quarterback.
Which at this point for me would be Trey Lance is there, but for he's gone. Right. All five are gone. So what does that mean if they want quarterback? They would have to trade up at this point, right?
Yeah, they'll have to trade up at that time. At that point, I've seen mock drafts that say that if they can't get QB, that they'll either go receiver or they'll go corner.
Okay.
I've seen drafts to where they're thinking, J.C. Horn will be there for the picking, and then you got some drafts that are saying that they'll wind up getting Jalen Waddle at this spot.
Okay.
In which I could see Waddle, thriving in Philadelphia. I mean, if Jalen Hurts, somehow, sticks it out and winds up winning that starting quarterback position, then I could see him and Waddle, having some good chemistry. Okay. I could see him and Waddle having some dang good chemistry. I mean, because right now their leading receiver might be freaking Greg Ward Jr. or somebody like that.
Yeah. Oh man.
And if it's Greg Ward Jr., I mean, look, no disrespect to to the kid from Dickinson, from the U of from the kid from U of H, but come on, I mean, you're not gonna win a lot of games with Greg Ward Jr. being your number one, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I could see them, definitely picking a receiver at the spot, even though corner would probably be the safer pick.
Okay, that's cool. Anything else anything else that you're looking for out of the NFL draft over the next 3 days?
Oh man. My biggest thing is I'm still intrigued, even though I think that Justin still stays in the top 10. But if Justin slides out of the top 10, man, that's going to be the biggest story of the draft.
It has to be, because this guy was pinned in at number 2 for the longest time, potentially even a quiet number 1. Like, hey, it sounds like Trevor Lawrence is the guaranteed number 1, but not necessarily. Like Justin Fields looked really good in the playoffs. So I get that. Like, for him to drop, it's like an Aaron Rodgers dropping all the way down into the 20s for the to the Packers years ago. That's interesting to me. Okay, yeah. Like, you're right. If Justin Fields does fall past the top 10, he could take a really big tumble. He could.
Oh yeah.
Huh. Now that I think about it, unless he may fall down. Maybe the Raiders take him at 17 just as insurance behind Derek Carr. I don't know. Or maybe at 19 the Redskins say, you know what, we're gonna take a quarterback here. We have so many needs, so many spots, but we're gonna take a quarterback. Maybe the Washington football team, decides to go quarterback. It's there's a lot that can happen with that with Justin Fields, and I think with him and Devontae Smith, those are the guys that were pinned so high for so long, and now that they're talking about not even being top 10 picks, it does make it a little interesting, because there could be a lot of movement after the first team when we get into the teens, and downward into the 20s, there could be a lot of movement for some of these guys, because the value to trade up isn't as bad as going into the top 5, or to the top 10. Like the value decreases quite a bit here. So maybe it's okay. Well, maybe if I have to move up 3 or 4 slots in the teens from 18 to 15 or something, it makes more sense. It's cheaper, it costs less, and I can get a guy that I know that was once valued at the top of the draft, and so obviously they have the talent. They have the talent to be there. So yeah, I'm looking for that. For me, and we haven't talked about it much, but I think the other thing is, I don't like. It's going to be interesting because we're at we don't have a Deshaun Watson update with the the way the world turns with Deshaun Watson this week, which is great. I'm okay with that. But short story, there's been a little bit of movement, but it's mostly just the lawsuits are moving into the forward direction, but we haven't heard much else. We haven't heard a whole lot more. And so what do you do at this point? Like, can you trade him? Would the NFL allow you to trade him? Is the NFL saying, no, we have to, until these lawsuits resolve themselves, because we don't know, we can't let a team that was willing to take on the risk end up being screwed if Deshaun Watson goes to jail. We can't let that happen, because that's going to be a bad look if we allow a team to say, yeah, we'll give you, if the Texans say we'll take whatever we can, whether it be 1 first-round pick or 2 2s, 3 3s, whatever, just to get rid of this whole situation, get the contract off of our books. And Carolina says, okay, we'll give you the number 9 pick for it. Okay. We know that in a vacuum where Deshaun wasn't in the middle of 20 some odd lawsuits, that the value is there for Deshaun Watson no matter what. But at this point, it throws a wrench into the things, and I've said that before. But I'm still interested to see if something does get done. Like, maybe something does get done, that maybe the NFL does allow the Texans to trade him. Maybe they say, as long as both teams are in agreement that this is a situation, and at this point, if like, let's say he's traded to Carolina as an example, and he has to go to jail for criminal charges, then obviously the NFL has to suspend him. Or if these lawsuits reveal something that requires the NFL to take action against Deshaun to where they have to suspend him, if both teams are willing to admit that, hey, this is going to be the case, we're willing to accept it, the risk, okay, then if the other team is willing to accept that, then maybe the NFL says, okay, we'll do this. And why not? Because if you were another team and you really looked at this whole thing, at this point we are almost 2 months into this whole thing with Deshaun Watson, Rod, and we haven't heard much in regards to criminal charges, right? Just a bunch of civil lawsuits. Those can be either settled or they do go to trial, where with civil there are no criminal he won't be criminally prosecuted. He'll be civilly prosecuted, which means damages, which means money. Like you just said, money, dollar bills. That's really it. And so maybe another team can really pounce on this, because they say, look, if we got as much information as we could from the NFL, if there was enough transparency for them to say, why don't we do this? Maybe the 49ers say, screw it, let's do it. Let's just go ahead and trade, get Deshaun, because he's obviously going to be better than Mac Jones. We know it, although we know Shanahan wants his statue. He doesn't want a guy that runs now. We hear that now. So if he's not willing to go for a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, why even bother going after a Deshaun Watson? But at the same time, maybe a team sees an opportunity to say, we can get him at a cheaper value than we could before this whole lawsuit thing blew up. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm willing to say that, you can't, kick Carolina to the curb on this one. I still think that they would definitely be in play for that. Now this is where the Texans, it's weird, because if the Texans can pull that off, then they freaking won.
Yeah.
They won, because if they can get into the 8th spot, then Trey Lance is going to be there.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is going to be there. I mean, there's your quarterback replacement, and if you look at the intangibles, Trey Lance has almost the same figure as a Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but you have to ask this about Trey Lance, though. Is there sticker shock from Carson Wentz at North Dakota State?
Possibly.
I mean, because we had talked about Trey Lance being a higher pick than Mac Jones. Mac Jones skyrocketed over him, okay? He vaulted over him. He vaulted over Justin Fields, okay? The Justin Fields thing, when the vault happened, we had kind of heard that Justin Fields may be dropping. Okay, that's the thing. But to say Trey Lance is kind of falling to the bottom of the top 10 over, they're taking Mac Jones over Trey Lance. That does have me thinking that, given he's a big guy with a strong arm, maybe people are worried that we have another Carson Wentz, a smaller school guy that isn't going to be able to produce. Like Carson Wentz had a good couple of seasons, and all of a sudden it just went to crap, Yeah. And I know the injury was a big deal, but at the same time, for Philadelphia to walk away from both he and Nick Foles like that, when they're just a few years away from winning the Super Bowl combined throughout the entire season, it leads me to believe that there is a bit of that there are executives that are like, okay, Trey Lance is good, but the last time we went North Dakota State, let's look at how that played out.
Yeah.
That would be interesting though. At the 8th pick, they can easily go after Trey Lance and just see what they have out of that and just move on. But that would mean that Carolina is willing, because they parted ways with a 6th and 2 3s, I think, or 2 2s for Sam Darnold.
A 2 and a 3, I think. I'm not sure.
So a 6th-rounder this year and a 2 and a 3, right? I think that's what happened for next year. Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a slew of picks. It wasn't something that could damage. But second rounders are very high value because you can get some really quality starters and good players in the second round and third round if a lot of linemen come out in the middle of the draft that are, that's where you can get some good value for, future starter linemen and defensive players in the third round.
And especially if Christian McCaffrey is on the trade block, then hey, look, there's going to be a bevy of running backs in the second round that you could choose from. So
yeah, if they decide to go ahead and move, they're going to have to give up the number 8 pick, which is okay. That's something. But at this point, we're not talking about 3 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks anymore for Deshaun. Which, like I said, I'd have to go back and look and see if the NFL basically said nothing can be done. I don't remember that edict ever coming down that
nothing.
Like, we can't do anything. Like a trade cannot happen right now. I think they're saying we're looking at the situation, we're monitoring it,
and that's all. That's all you heard.
If I was a team that really thought about this, worst case scenario with civil lawsuits, if it got really ugly in court with these lawsuits with Deshaun, the NFL may have to suspend him for a little bit. That's really not too damaging.
Yeah.
But if he ended up getting charged criminally, then the NFL is going to definitely have to throw the hammer down on him.
Yes.
Because we're talking about sexual assault charges on from on Deshaun Watson, which the NFL has to really come down on that now, really hard. Civil suits are a little bit of a different story, but it's interesting because this is kind of uncharted territory, a little bit of uncharted territory because we're talking about 24 cases, which is just crazy to think about, but we're talking about civil cases. We're not talking about criminal cases. How does the NFL handle that? That's really the Antonio Brown thing. Look, he got a short suspension, and after a little bit of time, he was allowed to just go ahead and start over again, and he was signed on with the Bucks, and he won a Super Bowl. That's really so. Maybe the Panthers say, okay, well, we have Sam Darnold here that could play for the season. Screw it, let's go ahead and trade for Deshaun Watson and see what happens. Because worst case scenario, we can't have Deshaun Watson play for an large percent of the season. We can have Sam Darnold do that, and then at the end of the season, going forward after that, Watson's our guy. But we can get value now. That's it's crazy to think that for some, but do you want to be that team that says we're going to go ahead and try to get a discounted Deshaun Watson because of sexual harassment lawsuits? It's like, are they going to be shamed on by the internet? Or, it's still a business at the end of it. And, Deshaun hasn't been put on the exempt list at this point. So you can still technically do something. So it's a lot to think about, man, because and maybe there are some backdoor communications going on with the Texans and the NFL and the Players Association about how this should be handled at this point, because there's still, as much as we want to get closure with these lawsuits and as ugly and as wrong and awful as things have come out about Deshaun Watson, these alleged accusations, the reality is still he's still an NFL quarterback for the Houston Texans, and he's not suspended. His contract's still good. He could still technically, if he wanted to, walk onto the field come day one of training camp. Like, it's still possible at this point. Now, if he goes on the exempt list, the Texans have to pay his salary in full, the guaranteed amount, and he just sits it out until these cases are resolved. But I think that we haven't mentioned it. The reason why I bring it up is just because it sounds like I think we're overlooking that something crazy like that could happen, where a team like the Panthers say, we outside of this whole disaster, we probably could get him for 4 first-round picks. We probably can get him for swapping and giving away a few other picks at this point, because what are the Texans really going to do? He doesn't want to play for them. If they the Texans risk if he goes on the exempt list, they have to shell out $40 million. We're willing to do that. I don't know what their cap space is like for Carolina. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have that in front of me right now, but that's probably the only place I can really think of he goes at this point, right? I mean, really is.
Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense. It is the only thing that makes sense.
Unless New England thinks that they're willing to do it. They're like, Belichick's were like, we stay at 17 and we stay at 15. We can cough it up to the Texans and a couple other picks, and we just write it out. They have Cam Newton for one more year. I just don't think that's something Belichick really wants to do. I don't think he wants to ride out a possibility of dealing with a season of Deshaun Watson in court. I don't think that's really what he wants. But I mean, at this point, if someone's willing to take the PR risk, you can get them at a discount. I can't rule that out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but even when still look in the grand scheme of things, I mean, Carolina still makes sense. I mean, they at one point was like, yeah, we will go all in for Deshaun Watson. So rumor
is that they were going after him before, like after he announced he wanted to leave, he wanted to be traded. Like apparently they were talking with the Texans in January. So,
Yep. So I don't think that they're too far away from wanting to create that love affair.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap this bad boy up, Rod. Hopefully folks listen to this before the draft. If you listen to it after the draft and you're like, I already knew what happened, guys. What do you want me to tell you guys? Like, it's hard to produce a sports podcast because shit happens like fast, weekly. It's hard. That was the big thing about us trying to go down and read the schedule of games in each sport each week, and that's what drove me crazy. I'm not going to lie, because like by the time this stuff got uploaded, either those games happened or they were just about to happen, and it just didn't work out. So we changed the format a bit to where we talk about stuff that are slightly more evergreen, but sometimes like with this one, we wanted to catch up about March Madness last episode. And since we do these every other week, it was like, man, we're right up against the draft. But, hopefully when you sit down and talk and watch the draft after you listen to this, you can go back and be like, hey, they were pretty spot on about this, or, I didn't agree with that. Because you're always welcome to reach out to us. And if you want to engage in conversation, more than welcome to, guys.
Yep. Hopefully you get a chance to say, you know what, those guys absolutely know what they're talking about. Maybe we want to
know their shit.
Listen to them a little bit more,
Yeah. Then you could pass us along to someone else and be like, these guys know what they're talking about.
I'm just saying, man.
That's how these things blow up. All right, so social media. If you want to hook up and say hello, it's either /Cap Casualties or @Cap Casualties on all of your sites, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, man. You're more than welcome to say hello to us. Like I said, welcome to reach out and engage with us in conversation. We appreciate everyone. We appreciate all the downloads and listens. Thank you very much. Rod, I'm going to give you the parting shot here tonight, man. What do you want to say before we head out?
Yeah. I don't know if this is good or bad or indifferent, man. But just got some news that just came across my phone about 10, 15 minutes ago that Mark Emmert has contract extended out to 2025.
What?
Yeah. So the NCAA screws up again. That's my parting shot. Yeah, we have to deal with another 4 more years of incompetence. Yeah.
All right, this was a guy that
Yeah.
was around during the whole Baylor fiasco and felt like they did a good enough job themselves. It just, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
It's funny, Rob, because like they take one step forward with things like making a stance against the state of Georgia, for the voters alleged voter suppression, laws that they're trying to pass out there. But then they do things like this. Like, I'm not a big fan of him either, man. It's just like not a big fan of BB, the former Big 12. Is he still the Big 12?
Oh no. BB's he's gone, man.
Gone.
It's
was never a fan of that guy. Was never. A
No,
fan
I was never a fan of BB, and he finally got up out of there, and it's Bowlesby.
Bowlesby, that's
now
right.
the
So Mark
commissioner
Emmert
now, so.
extended through 2025. This guy is going to be making like $3 million a year or something. He's gonna make good money. He's gonna make good money, and he's gonna make good money to just make stupid moves because I don't know. That's just what he does. Come on, NCAA, get it together, man. God.
Yeah. So
right.
when you think that you can get some confidence and some hope in the NC2A organization, and they just find a way to kill all your hopes and dreams. So that's my parting shot. Thank you, NC2A, for screwing up the rest of my night, man.
All right, there you go. Mine's a quickie, man. While we wrap up here, we'll be out for a couple of weeks, but this weekend, Notorious ROD celebrating his 43rd birthday, guys. Send the man some love. Happy birthday, Rod. Happy future birthday, or happy birthday whenever you're listening to this. But on May 1st, you're gonna be 43, right? Big 43.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Hey, and appreciate the love there, Pat, man. I mean, I know there's all I knew that we always had that we always had good chemistry, and we jive, man, because our birthdays are so close together. So
yeah, just as a little heads up, there was a core of us that would hang out a lot, and I think we were like birthdays were like each of us were like 3 or 4 weeks apart, if that. It was like Brad, me, then Rod.
Yeah, I mean, it was like every month we were like when we all turned 21. I mean, it was like starting in February, going all the way up to mine, man. I mean, we were going hard pretty much every single month, man. So
yeah, we were living that morning zoo life without the crank and the crack.
Yep.
Well, happy birthday, Rod. Happy birthday, man. Have a good birthday. Wishing you the best out there in Florida. Try not to get eaten by a gator or some crazy ass person that's out there, because we know how Florida is. But wishing you the best out there. That's it, guys. Let's wrap this bad boy up. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the flip.
Peace.